Well, good morning and welcome to the beautiful River Nene. I mean, just turned October, you know, it's just starting to, we're getting that nice little autumn in the air, and I really fancy doing some proper river fishing. So I've come here today. It's at the Barnwell section on the Wellingborough ticket. A brilliant club. I've been a part of it now for a year. Great water. I've caught some great fish off their water all through the summer. Been brilliant. But I've been doing lots of like chub fishing and stuff like that, and I really fancy getting my proper kit out and doing some pole fishing. Now, I must apologise for the lack of videos recently. Just had another baby, so obviously you'll excuse me for being a little bit preoccupied with that. But hopefully we're back and we're going to catch some nice fish today on the River Nene. So what we're going to fish today is hemp. Now, this river, it's got some lovely roach in it. Well, I hope it has. I've never actually fished this stretch before. It's got some lovely roach in it, and I'm hoping that we'll catch them on hemp. There's no better bait. I know when you sat here on your own pleasure fishing, there's a chance that you could draw a lot of bleak and small nuisance fish, and fishing baits like maggots and stuff can be a real, almost like a waste of time. You're just going to catch loads of little fish that you don't really want to catch. So cheers. So I'm going to go down the hemp route today. I've got some maggots and stuff just in case, morning swans, just in case I can't get any bites, but I'm hoping that the hemp goes. So all I've done while I was tackling up, I've potted in a bit of hemp. So I've just got some hemp straight out of a tin for feeding, and I've just put in half of a big pot of hemp, and I've just scattered it around the swim. Now, there's barely any flow today, so I've actually fed my hemp well downstream. The reason is, I know from previous experience doing this style of fishing that the fish will often either sit well above it or sit below. Now, because of the lack of flow, it makes it quite tricky to fish. So if I put my hemp downstream, it gives me the option to fish slightly upstream of the bait or well downstream of the bait. I'll show you more about that when I'm actually fishing. So I've got some hemp for feeding. I've got a little bit of hemp that I've cooked myself. This is really small stuff. I found a bag of really small stuff in my local tackle shop. And I like really small grains for the hook. I know a lot of the textbooks sort of say, you know, fish monster hemp and all that kind of stuff, but for me, when you're roach fishing, they've got small mouths. You don't need those, you know, those big monster hemps. It just misbites, that is. So all I've done, I simmered it for about 10 minutes, that's all. Turned the heat off, left it all afternoon, and it's only just splitting, so I can put my size 20 hook in it perfectly. I have got a few tears. If the fishing was really good, more something like the Trent, something like that, a tear, single tear will do you wonders, but I'm thinking that it'll be hemp today. Now, as you can see, I'm feeding the swim all the time while I'm, if you can tell on the video, but I'm well downstream there where I'm firing that hemp in, and I'm hoping that that'll come good. Be quite generous. Now, the rigs I've set 2 rigs up. One's a 1/2 gram kerry float with a bulk and 3 droppers. That was more for like maggot fishing and stuff like that. But for the hemp, this is the one I really want to catch on. It's a 4x12 Chianti float. Beautiful little float. Cane tip. It'll just sit there, dotted right down, and it'll just trundle along nicely. I've got a really long line above. It's only probably 6 foot deep, but I've got my rig set up on a full top 4, which is a traditional top 5 of another pole. That just gives me a long length of line, and I can really search. I can flick it out past my pole tip. I can do all sorts of it. But the really interesting part is how I've got it shotted. Now, I've got a 50 centimetre hook length, more about that in a minute, and then I've got every 2 inches a number 12 shot, all the way up. Now, because there's such little amount of flow today, it's not that I'm trying to fish on the drop per se, although I will get bites on the drop. I'm actually more looking for the shot, because they're so close together, to actually pick up any flow that there is, so it'll actually get it trundling through a little bit. So that's the theory there. And then I've got a 50 centimetre hook length of 08 to a size 20 N10 hook. Very unusual this. Obviously everyone uses 6-inch or 8-inch hook lengths when pole fishing, but the water's tap clear today, and I just want as natural presentation as I possibly can on my hook bait down this bottom end. So I've got 50 centimetres there of unhindered line. There's no shot on it whatsoever, and hopefully I'll get a lovely slow fall and get some fish as the bait's settling. To hook the hemp, all I do, I just pick out a grain that's only just split, and then I sort of push the shank of the hook in, and it sort of clicks in. Now, if I was fishing the Old Nene at March or somewhere where I'm looking to catch 100 fish on hemp, then I'd probably do it a little bit different. I'd pin the hemp, but because today I'm not expecting the fishing to be amazing. I'm hoping to catch, you know, 8 or 9, maybe 10 pound of fish by the end. I'm happy just to hook it on by putting it in, you know, just pushing it into the slit. So let's get out there and show you how I'm fishing it. So it's really weedy, as I said, and I'm fishing at 14 metres. This just helps me get out. There is barely any flow, but it helps me get down the boat channel. It's a weedy river, this is, in the summer, and although the weed is starting to die back, I've got to do everything I can to get away from it. So I've put my float in a good metre above my feed there. So I'm feeding, like I say, well downstream, and I'm putting my float in well above it and running onto the hemp. The crafty devil's roach, and they'll often sit above your loose feed. They'll either sit bang under it or above it, in my experience. There we go, got a bite. And if you were to feed your bait in the wrong place, then you wouldn't, nice little roach, then you wouldn't be able to get your rig set and fishing at the right time. So feeding well downstream just allows me to get this light rig in position where I need it to, and also pick them fish off that are above the feed, which it seems like the crafty devils are there today. That's where they want to be. So that hemp's lovely, just clicks on, and I'm happy with that. Now, how we fish the hemp is very similar to almost pellet fishing, as in we're not fishing big strikes or anything like that. We're regularly lifting and dropping, sort of checking the float, lifting it out, lay it in, checking it, lifting it out, laying it in, lifting it out, laying it in. And all the time I'm trying to encourage a bait roach to snap at my hook bait. Don't big strike, because you'll just knock your hemp off. As you can see, like I say, I'm getting a bite there now. Nice little lift, and we're in. Nice roach. Lovely fishing. Don't get much better than this, to be honest. Look at that, lovely. Little dumpy. Lovely little dumpy roach there on the hemp. Lip hooked. Now, when it comes to feeding, we're being quite aggressive. Like I say, there's plenty of fish feeding, and there's no need to fanny about with tiny bits of hemp, tiny amounts. We can be quite aggressive, but it's all about getting that feed in the right place. I started off feeding and fishing downstream, but straight away I realised that the fish were well above the feed, which is often the case, it sounds weird how they sit up above the feed. You think they'd all be below it, but it's not always the case. Okay, another bite. So yeah, like I say, I'm fishing it very much like I would pellets. Got a long line, but easier if there was a lot more flow, I've got to say. But there's barely any flow. But we'll do what we can. We've got that light float on a 4x12, and it is, with all them shots, picking up the flow. Oh, we're getting a bite on a drop there. That chian is so nice for this fishing. So we're fishing, like I say, well above the feed and then running onto the feed. Crafty devils they are. Not trying to tear yet. Whoa. Weird bite. That was a bit of an odd bite, that one. So I'm just clicking that in. See, it's pretty quick. It's not, because I've got my hemp cut perfectly for the hook. It's really quick. It's not like I'm fannying around trying to get one on. So it's just, again, it's working out exactly where to put the rig in for the best, quickest bite. It may be that I have to drop it down and start fishing a little bit closer to the feed, or I might have to go way above the feed yet. We don't know. There's a bite. Right. So really what you want to do when you get into the swing of things is to just lift the float out when you get a bite, so you can just sort of lay it back in again. So, but we'll get into the swing of things in a minute. Little bite there, that was better. More control. But I've been fishing for chub on this stretch of river for probably the best part of a year now, and every time I park my van here I think I should go on there and have a go with a pole, so that's what I'm doing today. I'm just got a little bit awkward, the wind's off my back and it's pushing my rig across. I have got a back shot on. Because there's so little flow, it is pulling my float out of position. but we'll manage. Right, see, once it settles, the float is barely even moving through. That's how little flow there is. There's not been a boat today, so there's no lock movement. There is a lock about half a mile downstream or so. Bait's on. Yep. Now I've seen a few pike striking, so there's every chance that we get a pike. Come and investigate in a minute. Up in there. So when I lay my rig in, I'm trying to hang on to it best I can. Not trying to keep it like really, really tight. I still want to let my rig fish sort of natural, but there, that's how I want it. I want it just almost like it shots up perfectly, and then it dinks under with a nice roach on. Look at that, lovely. Not the biggest roach in the world, but lovely fish all the same. Probably a little bit small, these stamp for tears, so we'll stick to the hemp. But I know that if I put a maggot on now, it just wouldn't be the same. I wouldn't be getting as many bites off roach, that's for sure. I'd be catching bleak and dace and all sorts of business. So I'll just get that float fish in, drag it into position, feed just downstream, and give it 2 lots this time. There's obviously a lot of fish here. Let's see, so I'm hanging on to it. I've got that number 8 back shot, probably 18 inches above the float. That long line between my pole tip and my float. And it means I can just hang on to it and almost fish it as natural as possible. Like I say, with that long hook length, the hook bait's presented so nicely. It's hard to fault it. You know, this isn't the Trent, or you know, it's a small river. The fish are cagey. There's no flow. You've got to stack the odds in your favour when it comes to getting bites. Well, that was a nice bite. Lovely. You know, you might on the Trent. Oh no, there's a pike. Get out. Well, I saw a pike come then, right behind the roach. Nice roach. He got a lucky escape, that one. A pike came out of nowhere and tried to get him. Yeah, on the Trent, you know, you'd be big float, clodding it in and double pouching hemp and all that business, but this isn't like that. This is, you know, you've got to be cute, you've got to have nice light rigs on, delicate tackle, and work out the best way to feed it. Lovely fishing. I don't think they'll be doing the fishing any good whatsoever, the old e-socks. But these are the things you've got to put up with on the natural venues. That wind just got all that flow and it's pushing it across the river, which is a bit of a nightmare. Got one there. A small roach. See, one thing that is apparent is that is this long hook length. Now, it's not everyone's cup of tea, and you know there is times when you need to get the bait down fast and see the bite fast, but these low clear rivers are not that. They're not that. You've got to get the bite in the first place to worry about getting bites like really fast. So sometimes just fishing a bit more hairy-fairy and a bit more delicate with a bit of finesse can really help. You know, I'm getting bites here, and there's another chap fishing. He's gone now, and he didn't have a bite, so it just shows you, it's not easy. Ooh, come off that one. That wind's a bit tricky. Hemp stayed on. Could have left it out there. I'm sort of gearing myself up to come back to natural fishing a bit more next year and the end of this year. So I've done a lot of commercials over the past 10 years, so I'm trying to go back to my roots a bit more and do a bit more natural style fishing. I'm really enjoying this. It's not easy, but there's fish to catch. Get it right, get the float going through right. Probably get a bite chuck. It's gone through lovely, that has. Yeah, there we go. So as soon as I get the float settled, and if I don't get a bite relatively quickly, that E-Sox is behind it again. If I don't get a bite relatively quickly, I'll just lift the float out. So my piece of hemp's actually stayed on there, so I will just double check. That stayed on lovely, so. We'll get back out there. I think that pike's helping me cause here today. More hemp. Regular feeding is must. Whoa. So yeah, as soon as the float settles, I'll give it 10 seconds. If I haven't had a bite, I'll just pick the float out 10 inches or so, lay it on the surface and let it go through again. And that constant like lifting and dropping can really work with roach. It's not, it's normally associated with other species, but roach, especially with hemp, just shows the hook bait to the fish again. So that's been in a little bit of time now. There we go. See, no big strikes, which is disappointing because I love a big strike, but there's no need. That's a nice roach. Lovely. So catching at this pace, I'm gonna end up with well into double figures of nice chunky roach like that. So lovely fishing. And the bait bill is minimal. I've not put any ground bait in or anything like that. Just the hemp. And while it's still relatively mild and the roach is spread out, this can be a lovely way to have an afternoon's fishing. I've got a tin of hemp and a few small bits for the hook, and that's it. I'm actually going to try a bit further down this time. I've laid it in a bit more amongst my feed, so let's see what happens. Quite happy with how I'm catching above it, but sometimes you've got to try different things. There you go. It actually went, so that settled about a foot above the feed, I'd say, that one. A nice roach. Lovely fishing. So I'll try that again. And this is the beauty of natural fishing. It's, you've got flow, you've got lots of fish to work with, and it's working out the best way to get your rig in position and working out the best place to feed, and that's the key to river fishing. I'll just catch one more. And then we're done. So it's just settling in the feed. Just settling. Oh, I missed it. That would have been perfect. Chance my bait's come off there. There we go, one to end on. Try and whiz him in so the pike doesn't get him. Lovely. And it's giving me a piece of hemp back. So there you go. Lovely bit of hemp fishing. And I'm going to carry on and put a load more of these in my net. But lovely little video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time.